Hello, welcome to another episode of the Shakedown. With me, as always, my esteemed colleague, my co-host, Shez at ShezMed on Twitter. How are we doing, sir?
Yeah, good. Um, yeah, always good to see you on a Wednesday slash Thursday. We've got some stuff to talk about.
Oh, mate,
Can't
we
wait.
we do indeed have lots to talk about by way of EA Sports' new edition of their F1 game, F1 23. We need to talk about these ratings, Shez, because I'm not having it. Day of Gifford. Go on, let's go through them very quickly. Let's talk about top five in keeping, because again, we do like a cheeky top five. So overall ratings, Max Verstappen top on 94. All of these ratings are out of 100, by the way. Fernando Alonso second, a rating, an overall one of 92 out of 100. Third place, they've given to Lewis Hamilton, 92. Fourth, Charles Leclerc. And fifth is Lando Norris. To that, Shez, you react how on reading those ratings?
Um, I mean, yeah, top three I can just about understand. Not sure I completely agree with the actual numbers, or even the order of number two and number three. Uh, but to have, yeah, Charles Leclerc, and then we said Lando Norris fourth, fifth, right? Yeah, it's a slightly funny order, and I think we're
This
going to
is
get into
chaos.
how some of these numbers were calculated. But I'm not. I'm not sure that these are completely robust and
Shez,
can stand up to scrutiny.
Shez, this is chaos. And it is ultimately just the game, but because it's the official F1
Oof.
game, a lot's made of it, right? Like, I don't know, they've done a video where the drivers are like revealing each other's rating and trying to guess each. It's a big deal. This is becoming not
An
quite as
event,
big,
isn't it?
bro. Not quite as big as the FIFA ratings, but it is big. So here's
Mm.
my principal point of contention, Shez, as I look at these ratings. How very dare they put Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Plan Alonso both on 92? And I don't care, even if you're going to put them both on 92, then you can't. Surely they've got them. Unless they're going to say that they've ordered them in terms of in alphabetical order their surname. Like you can't. How can you make that case? Shez? Lewis Hamilton in third, joint 92 rating. Even to give Lewis. All right, look, Max is incredible. Yeah, give him a rating of 94. I think you could argue that Max potentially deserves a higher rating on the back of last season, potentially.
Yeah.
But the gap between, so I'd go, let's, for argument's sake, let's give Max Verstappen a rating of 95. We'll get into the nitty gritty around the particulars that make up that rating shortly. You're not going to tell me that there's, what, 3 percentage points between Max Verstappen and it? You've got to put Lewis on 93. Surely that's a bit of recency bias there, Shez. 92 for Lewis Hamilton, 7-time champion. I'm not having that. Okay, so last season
Yeah.
wasn't fantastic, but come on, EA, have a word with yourself. I'm not having that, Shez. We're gonna have to move him up, I think.
I mean, I think we can have an entire shakedown based just on that top three because there's just so much contention in the podium slots.
Go on and
Um,
let's talk about it, Shez. Let's fix their ratings for them since we've got some time.
oh yeah, hell yeah, let's do that. So my first bone of contention is really really basic, right? So we know that what they've done is just use 2023. So they've used races up to and including the Miami Grand Prix as part of their rating, and they've taken on I think Anthony Davidson and another pundit to I think was it Jolyon Palmer to look through and try and help them come up with ratings, and then they've grouped all of the they've grouped scores under four different headings and then given an overall rating. So my first bone of contention is I don't understand how the overall rating is even calculated. So we did this beforehand, just before we started talking, and um, anyone that's a fan of statistics will know that the mean and the median are the calculations that you're going to use. Neither of them add up to the driver ratings using the categories that have been postulated. So if if you do a mean on the 4 categories, they don't add up. You don't get a mean for the overall rating, nor do you get a median. So I don't even understand how that's been calculated. And then if we start to get into the actual particulars, what do you think is the most important category there, Cameron?
It's got to be racecraft and pace, surely. Without those, and by the way, experience, racecraft, awareness, and pace are the categories that they've used to rate. And to be fair, you know what, Shez, to that point, I'm trying to the quick maths, and I checked these same time last year. I did the same calc that you did on the mean and the median, see if you could get back to these overall rating numbers, and it never works. I think potentially, I don't want to give them unnecessary credit here, but I think as I'm looking at it, if they have done a mean/median calc, I think they're massively overweighting. So if you look at Max is 94. It will have massively underweighted his 84 experience and overweighted his race pace, or his racecraft even, and pace, both being 97 and 95 respectively, right? That's what I think they've done, Shez. They've overweighted. And even as you go down, if you look at Alonso's racecraft 91, pace 93. So his average is overall 92 is kind of like, that's the average, right?
I mean, they must have weighted it. But even then, you can see that he scored really, really low on awareness. 78 he got. 78 out of 100 he scored out of...
Underweight shows. I don't even think they've baked that in. But if you go, as you scroll down just very quickly, I think we can almost assume this is what they've done. Check out Lewis's 94.90. The average of that is 92. Check out Charles' 91. I suppose that's a bit off. So I think broadly what they've done is average out.
But it's not an exact calculation.
It's not an exact calculation,
no,
but
because their top 3 would change order if they'd done that.
Yeah. They've it's techie. Go on then, Shez. Let's fix for this, man. Let's solve a problem on this Shakedown podcast. Go on then. Let's take a look at Max. So Max 94. Max has been given it over. That should be fixed for lose. Now let's work our way down. Top 5 settings. Go on. In fact, let's do reverse order then. Top 5, starting at Lando Norris. Lando Norris has 89 rating, 76 experience, 91 racecraft, 79 awareness, and 91 pace. Do we need to amend for any of those, Shez?
I think that's probably not unreasonable. I think
91 racecraft. I don't know about all that, Shez.
The reason being for Lando, 2 seasons in a row now, he's taking a car that basically should be like somewhere outside the points almost, and is doing big things with it. And he's done that now against Daniel Ricciardo, who we know wasn't completely at one with the car, but he's also doing it against a very highly rated rookie teammate who is getting better and better every race, but still isn't able to get to Lando's level. So I think if you're going to look at one driver in the sort of midfield who you'd give a high rating to, I think Lando's the guy. Whether that makes him a bona fide top 5 driver, I don't know, but I think it certainly puts him in the conversation. I don't think it's completely unreasonable.
Shez, I think they undermine the whole system when they're giving Lando Norris 91 pace and Charles Leclerc 90. That's just a joke already, man. They need to.
I agree with that.
So it's all relative, this. So I reckon they've over-rated Lando. Listen, I can't even give Lando at 89. Sochi's still too fresh in the memory, Shez. And granted, they've given him 79 awareness, but I think 89 is an overall rating because Lando's still, for me, Shez, is very much a work in progress. TBC on Lando. Okay, so maybe in a couple of years he might be 89, 90, 91 overall rating. But as at June 2023, nah, mate, I'm going to have to peg him back a little bit. If Carlos Sainz is 88, I'm giving Lando at least the same, maybe 87. And George, by the way, 88. I think
Yeah, this is
This,
silly.
this is brazy, Shez. Somebody
Yeah, this is a bit silly.
bring out the abacus and the calculator and let's recount. Lando Norris, a maximum of 88. If we're looking at the guys and girls around him, I wouldn't even be, if Bottas is 87, I wouldn't even mind 87, 88. I'm giving Lando for argument's sake, Shez, because it's too, not 80,
Yeah.
89 is too high.
What I don't understand is how. So okay, so Lando's a quick driver, but is he really the same level as George? Like, do we think it on pace they're the same? Don't think so. I think George has got a couple of tenths in his pocket over Lando.
Absolute pace terms. So you know what? Oh, this is chaos, Shez. We're going to be here for ages, aren't we? I think Lando, in absolute terms, might be quicker than George.
Go on.
I think Lando is a bit of a. I think Lando is almost a Mansell to George Russell's Prost. You know, George is a bit of a. George is a resource merchant. You know what I mean? He's going to use everything. I just think Lando, I suspect every bit that I've seen of Lando, both on the track and like in karting, he's always just been really, really quick. Okay, so George beat him, but Lando was a bit young that year and different machinery. No, I think Lando might be quicker than George. I think George would still beat Lando in equal machinery, but not because he's quicker. Shez. Same with Lewis.
I guess my counter, okay, so we're going to come to that, but my counter to that is, Lando's had one team, not necessarily one car, but one team and one sort of guiding philosophy that's driven each of those cars, and him and Carlos were fairly well matched in the seasons that they were together. And
he was brand spanking new.
Yeah. No, I take that. But he's sort of built himself along the path of understanding this particular McLaren philosophy, and he's really good at driving a slightly dodgy McLaren. Whereas George has managed to give himself that Mr. Saturday moniker based on the fact that he got fairly incredible results out of a pretty wayward Williams, and he's doing the same with a Mercedes that sometimes just doesn't want to do what he's making it do.
That's fair, bruv. That's fair. It's techie. I'm not gonna even to put George below Lando.
Yeah, that
just doesn't feel right, does it? Let's put them even. I'm not even going to argue the toss on their individuals because it gets too techie and we'll be here forever. Let's just I will put Lando Norris down. I'll peg him back one. I think his overall rating needs to be 88, not a penny higher or lower than George Russell. But then saying that to have Checo Perez higher than Lando is a bit techie, isn't it? Let's get on to Charles.
Yeah.
Let's get on to Charles. Right, Charles is 89. That pace rating of 90 is chaos.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Can't have that. How high are we moving Charles Leclerc's pace to?
Okay, before anyone shoots me for this, but I think it should be at least on par with Max. That's how fast I rate him. The fact that he managed to get pole in Baku, yeah, I understand it's a track that he enjoys, but to get pole in Baku in a car that is as tricky as the SF23, that in and of itself should tell you that he's got pace to spare. Sometimes he's pushing it right to the very edge of what is possible, and sometimes over it as well. But he I think he more than any other driver toes the line between on the line and ever so slightly over it better than anybody else on the grid right now. So I put him on at least a par with the pace that they've got Max down as.
So here's my counter to that then, Shez. Do you not have to bake the mistakes into his pace rating? Because you can't be fast in the wall, right, Shez? You can't be fast in the wall. If you've stacked it, you're not fast.
Yeah.
So ergo, does he not have to be less than Max by virtue of the fact that he crashes more?
No, and that comes back to the argument that I had before, which is that they're both driving very different cars, right? That Max's car allows him to sometimes even drive within himself a little bit and still be faster than everybody else, and only sort of really pick up the pace when he really needs to, when he really needs to. Whereas Charles is getting a lot of pace out of a car that isn't necessarily able to get those results. So he's driving on the ragged edge, and sometimes that pushes him over. But just remember, and we talked about this in that episode as well, that certainly in the Miami qualifying, yes, Charles put it in the wall, but Max also managed to mess up his final attempt at qualifying and didn't get a time on the board.
True, but of less consequence are Mr. Verstappen's
I don't think it was
mistakes,
of less consequence because Charles qualified higher than him.
In that instance, I would give you it. But generally, when you look across the horizon of Charles Leclerc's mistakes, they tend to be like win it or bin it type ones, right?
Yeah,
like
but I think that talks to the situation that Charles finds himself in. He's fighting a rearguard battle in a car and a team and an organization that aren't ready, and he's the only one that is.
Don't hate it. So that sounds like we're going to push up. Okay, by virtue of that increased pace, then I'd say 95. I'd still put him like 93, 94. We want it up.
I think we're splitting hairs, but
I know.
I'd give him 94. That's fine.
Lost in the roundings. So then his rating needs to be what? What are we saying overall? Shez, holy smoke. 92, 93 for Charles Leclerc?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, and I think that
Oof. Even with the mistakes? Oof.
Yeah. Look, we're talking about who are okay. Let's split the difference and call it 91 because
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with
right
that,
because if we're talking about the top 3-4 drivers on the grid right now, I think the top 3 this season are fairly well accounted for, but Charles absolutely knocking on the door and is a team and a car away from being in that group.
Oh, Shez, this is going to get techie. I take it, and I agree with you for the most part. To be fair, right then, let's get to Lewis now. This is the meat and potatoes of this conversation. Lewis has an overall rating of 92. How dare you?
Yeah, unreal.
EA. Put some respect on that geezer's name. How dare you? Comprised of experience at 97, racecraft of 94%, awareness of 94%, and pace of 90%. Dissect this for me, pediatrician Shez. Like, what's going? This is crazy, bro. Where do we start? Okay. What is most egregious here?
Should we start with the small ticket items first? Because I mean, experience, I guess you can't really argue with. Lewis has got 97 to Fernando's 99. That's fair enough. Like one's been on the grid for a bit longer than the other, and you can't give. I don't know why Fernando doesn't get 100. He's the oldest driver that's driven in the last 50 years, isn't he? Mm-hmm. But fine. Yep, can't go too far wrong with that. The racecraft one, interesting because. Okay, so I think there's two sides to this, right? There's a very obvious Fernando trait of being sort of aware of everything that's going on around him, looking at the TV screens to tell him what is going on and
levels,
yeah, right, and dictating to the pit what they should be doing.
Levels.
And that scores him a 92 versus Lewis's 94. But before we sort of go, Lewis has silly races and sort of switches off and makes bad decisions. Actually, even Fernando this week sort of put some respect on Lewis's name, didn't he? When he said that Lewis is driving at an incredible level in a car that isn't competitive. You see him week in, week out, pulling out fourth, fifths every single weekend, and you can't do that without some level of understanding of racecraft. Whether that puts him above Fernando, I don't I don't know. And that's the one that I feel a bit uncomfortable about. I think if I was going to change,
Lewis's racecraft is so high
yeah,
above.
in comparison, not as an absolute, I think in
Mm-mm.
comparison. And I think I'd probably have it 94 Fernando, 93 Lewis.
Oof, oof. But you're saying, so here's where it gets tricky. I need to look back at the definition, Shez, because if we're saying that racecraft for me is like that, how you conduct yourself, your steering inputs and your throttle and brake inputs, like when you're going wheel to wheel, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's how I define rate. Well, I'm not even going to use the EA definitions because they've cast themselves as an unreliable witness with some of these ratings. So that's how I define racecraft, right? And I think if they're giving max 97, bloody
Yeah,
ball.
that doesn't really
I
make sense
know
to me.
it doesn't fit again, does it? It
Well,
doesn't.
especially if you know what racecraft has Max actually had to display. I think the one time when he really needed to,
Came through the pack, Miami.
not just that, but actually, I mean, that was incredible. So
That
that's
was
probably
ridiculous.
so that's the argument for him. The argument against him is, or maybe it's not even an argument against him. Maybe it's him playing the percentages. His first lap in Australia, where he got mugged by George and Lewis on the first lap. Um, again, was there ever really any doubt that he was going to come back again? Did he just do that because he
Shez,
knew
you, you,
that he didn't need to?
you know what, Shez? I would, yeah, bang to your
Mm,
to your. I
mm.
concur with your latter. I think that's something. And again, whether we define this or characterize this as racecraft is almost a separate conversation. When I look at Max Verstappen's line of trajectory, his growth over the last few years, when I start to see him backing out like that, where we might not have a couple of years prior, I'm like, oh, that's improvement, right? That's growth, Shez. So I don't know how you categorize it into these bloody four, but I'm saying that I think that he's able to see that. Okay, you know what, guys? I got the quickest car. I don't need to. Like. I'm not racing you for your scraps. Like I will be able to. I can back out here and come back. I don't know, second stint
Yeah,
or whatever. Because I'm ultimately I have all the I've got all the all sparks or whatever. Like I have the rings, or all that I need to nail this. And he's not doing what he doesn't need to do anymore. Is my point, Shez.
So what where this becomes a bit more complicated, right, is I think there's a spectrum to this. When you're in a car that only can only win on occasion, let's say 2019, 2020, you're going to be do or die, right? Because that's what you have to do. When you've got a car that's absolutely dominant, is like a second quicker than everybody else, well, then it's a very easy decision to go, okay, I can step back. And especially when your advantage is in absolute pace, but also straight line speed, you can kind of
True.
go, it's all right, I'm going to get them back. Where you're actually going to need to make a decision about whether Max has grown in terms of his racecraft is if you get back into another 2021 situation where it's not always do or die. You have to make decisions based on what the outlook of your championship is, right?
It's a fair
And I
cop.
think that's when you're going to really know whether he has grown or not. Because right
Don't
now
know.
it's not a difficult
Yeah, it's
decision for him to make.
not applicable then for Mr. Verstappen. Go on then. I need numbers from you, Shez. You've spoken truth to both of them. I need Max's racecraft and I need Lewis's racecraft. Both currently sat at 97 and 94 respectively. Give me two numbers.
So I would probably drop Max's just based on what we said, because we don't have enough of a sample set to know whether this is growth or not. I'd drop that down to sort of 95, I think 90, 94, 95. I think Lewis probably needs to come down one slot to 93. I think.
How sorry.
Sorry.
Go on. Why? Why? Explain to me that. Why? If you're 94 Max, you say
Because
93 Lewis.
Are we definitely using your definition of wheel to wheel racing?
Yeah. I think we need to. I think that's what racecraft is, right? Rather than they've got another category, awareness, but they've they've given Fernando 78. Maybe
Yeah, do you
that.
see what I mean? So I don't think that is what we think it is.
No,
Because
it's no.
when I looked at what I mean, we're going to come to this in a second, so spoiler. But EA define awareness as how often you're. It sounds like it's how often you're spending time in the steward's room. Like, are you getting loads of penalties and things like that?
It's
And
just
that I don't
nonsense.
understand why that's an important that's an
Rubbish.
important category.
Rubbish.
But if it's about awareness for the race, I mean, no, 78 for Fernando makes zero sense.
So maybe
Like
they've
zero sense.
grouped, but then even so, where have they got? Maybe they've coupled that up into experience. This is nonsense, EA. We have to do better. It's
Tell us that. Yeah, exactly.
confusing, absolutely confusing. Okay, so we've given Max 94, 95 racecraft,
Yeah, I
depending on
mean,
what
in
racecraft
which
means.
case, then if it's just based on wheel to wheel, and we're talking this season, actually, actually, I think Lewis has probably taken a step forward. He's taken a bit of that Max do or die this season. With some of the moves that he put
He's come on.
into, like Melbourne was exactly that. So, I think 94 then is probably fair. 94, I'll give him 94. Fernando, and then Fernando has to be higher. I mean, that move he pulled into turn 10 in Bahrain. Come on.
Levels.
I mean,
Levels, bro.
is that if that's not
Move of the season
move of the
thus far.
season,
Levels.
yeah, so he probably needs, which means that I'm being completely fence sitting. I'm giving them all 94. There you go, 94 for all of them.
I don't hate it, brother. I want to argue, but I don't hate it. I think it's an entirely justifiable position. Don't hate it. All right, then. So overall,
Louis... Oh wait, pace. We can't. Look, pace is the contentious one.
That's
here.
that's another 10 hours worth, isn't it? All right. So Max has been given 95 pace. Alonso's been given 93, and Lewis has been given 90. Talk to me, Shez. To that, sir, you react how?
Okay, I'm anticipating an argument, but here we go. I think Max is probably justified that 95, and I'll tell you why. Even though he's in a car that is head and shoulders above everybody else, I think his Monaco lap elevates his pace rating at least.
Oh.
The reason being that showed that, number one, he knows when to hold back and build up a lap. And second, it means that even when he's not absolutely 100% sure he's got the best car in that particular moment, he's still able to extract absolutely everything from it. Because that sector 3 was incredible. Fernando had him and he still managed to pull out that lap. So that tells me that in another situation this season with that car, if he needs to, he's got another level of pace available to him. And I take all the caveats about how quick that car is, take all those caveats, but actually, pace for me is how well does man and machine bond and extract and get the most out of each other. And that's a balance to dance, and I think he has got it absolutely on. He's actually got that balance this season, so that's why I think I'm probably okay with that rating. But argue with me, go for it.
Says it's techie though. In hindsight, listen. Nobody was more gassed up about sector 3 at Monaco than I. I thought that was levels. The Rascast, the way he's managed the understeer and bloody shorted the corner, as my guy Peter Windsor puts it. Like I nobody's more gassed about that than me. But in hindsight, Shez, I feel like I might have been looking at the lap in totality with rose-tinted spectacles just a little bit. Here's my knock on that. If we're talking about pace, because this is what we need to do, right? Pace isn't pace in sector 3. Pace is pace, right? Pace is pace. And so if we're looking at Monaco, Alonso made a mistake in his sector 3, which kind of enhances the levels already. Secondarily, I think Max has this thing that it's not the bozo gene. That's too harsh. He's not Charles Leclerc and he doesn't make those crazy mistakes of that level of consequence. But sometimes I do look at Max and the mistakes he makes and I'm like, hold on, how? It's almost like he's bored in the car, Shez.
Yeah,
Like,
Melbourne, he definitely did that.
but so let me explain. So Melbourne's a brilliant example. The fact that he's put that sector 3 in, and then on the straight, he's the straight, not Rascasse or Piscine or swimming pool, not like the difficult bits of Monaco's sector 3. On the start finish straight, that's where he rubs tires with the bloody with the arm, not the arm code, the Tech Pro on the right hand side. That is outrageous. And then if I wheel back a sec, Jeddah sector 1, sector 2, 2021, bruv, like two of the most I would argue that sector 1, sector 2 probably better than both of which probably better than sector 3 Monaco. Incredible sectors. But then the mistake that he makes in sector 3, it's like something that you'd see from Nicholas Latifi, right? It's like, what? You just outbraked yourself. Like, what? The basic mistake. So, I say all that to say this, Shez. 95 is really, really high. And when I'm looking at 93 Fernando Alonso and 90 Lewis Hamilton, I'm not sure. I think this needs to be, we need to top and tail both here. I think Max, with those things that I've just said, Max's 95 pace is too high. And Fernando Alonso's 93, and definitely Lewis Hamilton's 90 is far too low.
Yeah, okay.
That's my case. No further questions, Your Honour.
Okay.
I think we just moved them, Shez. I think we moved them.
So yes, I do think the others need altering. I'm not so sure about changing Max's. That touching of the wall at the end of the straight in Monaco, which is, come on, it's not really a straight. Just shows that he was getting them the absolute maximum out of his exit from Anthony Noakes.
Agree,
that's the way I saw that.
But I don't know.
And was it a mistake? Did it slow him down? No, it probably was.
Of course, it slowed him down. If you touch the barrier, it's going to slow you down. All I'm saying is, as I look at it, it's just astounding. It's almost like Jekyll and Hyde, right? It's astounding to me that a guy can do what he does on Rascasse, take that line, that line that's so much more acute than anybody else, not named Esteban Ocon in that session, and manage to understeer. This is like God tier level.
Yeah.
That wheelmanship is God tier, Shez.
Yeah.
It's different level, and then he goes and touches his right side on the bloody straight.
But I would balance it far more towards what he's done at Rascasse than I would the little touch on the straight, because actually two things about that. The first is that the touch on the straight was much less than whatever happened in Jeddah. So actually maybe he's learnt a little bit. Second, to make a near as makes no difference 1 ton Formula One car looked like a go-kart around the third sector of Monaco, that's another level of skill, right?
Agreed.
That's not that's not by fluke. That's understanding what your car can do, what you can get out of it, what each of those controls can contribute to that. No one else did that better than him that session. And as I think Baxty said on that episode, that wasn't the Red Bull, that wasn't Adrian Newey, that was all Max.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Baxty nailed it. So go on then, you convince me. We're leaving Max on 95.
Yes.
With what you've just said, with that soliloquy, Shez, it begs the question whether you want to increase him from the 95 to a 96 or 97. If his racecraft is 97, do you not want to increase the pace then on the back of what you just said, or are we leaving it at 95?
No, I think 95 is the highest pace rating in these rankings, and I think that's probably fair.
All right, cool. Oh well, is it though?
In terms of what's been given, I think that it is the highest, isn't it?
But does it need to be equal highest with an Alonso and or a Sir Lewis Hamilton? That is the question, sir.
Okay, go on.
No, you go. The floor is yours.
I think giving Lewis 90 is, I don't know what they're thinking.
Smoking something, Shez. That's chaos. It's as if they haven't accounted for the fact that the W14 is an optimal machinery, right? They're behaving like all these guys are driving equal machinery, and I don't think that's fair. There's a bit of recency bias in there. And to that, Shez, might I propose? Oh my God, I don't even want to say a Lewis Hamilton pace number. You tell me what you think, Shez, and then I'll go after.
Okay, so unfortunately, I don't think I can put it at the same level as Max, right?
How dare you?
Yeah, I know.
Burn him at the stake.
Yeah. So the reason for that is, I think in terms of race pace, I don't think there's actually anyone quicker than Lewis over a stint. I think other than Max, I think that's something that Max has built into his game over the last three, 4 seasons. If you're going to talk about something that I think Max has really progressed on, that's it. And him and Lewis, I think, are the best at doing what they do over a stint, right? And since the update, and yeah, I think since the update is probably fair. Lewis has come alive in qualifying, right? But these ratings are only up until Miami, and up until that point, Lewis in qualifying trim wasn't quite reaching the same level that George was. It was always, I mean, it was hundreds here or there, but it always seemed to be hundreds in George's favour. And I think that's why they've given the pace edge to George in these ratings.
This is chaos.
But I don't agree with it. This is too
far.
I don't agree with it.
The sacrilege and witchcraft is too much. 91 George and 90 Lewis.
Yeah, I think that's nonsense. I think what they've done is that they've just taken qualifying and then just used that, because
recency bias, any.
Yeah, because I think when it comes to what is important under this rule set, it's not qualifying, it is race pace, and being able to manage your tires and come through the field and take a fourth or fifth and turn it into a second or third actually is what's most important. So I would be sort of increasing Lewis up to a sort of 94 minimum, based on that.
Mate, I was going to hang up the call, mate. If you'd said anything less than 94.
No. It has to be 94 minimum, because in terms of outright pace when it counts, he's been second to none, really.